Well, good morning, everyone. Today we are going to be covering an excellent topic, well known in the industry. Thank you for joining us today. Uh, I have the honor to share this information with you today. We are going to be covering is why you should integrate plant growth regulators into your business. My name is Francisco Sicilia. I'm the landscape horticulture specialist for Rainbow Ecoscience. My main area of that I cover is the southeast of the United States, but I do go all the way around in many occasions, all the way to the West Coast. Below is my contact information. I will be sharing this at the end as well, so please feel free to take a picture and save it. At Rainbow Ecoscience, we develop products, equipment. Along with that, we provide training and ongoing support to our customers. We come out and to the field, to your offices, and help you understand how to operate the equipment and best understand the protocols that come along with our products. So it's a relationship we develop over time and with your teams and work cohesively throughout different seasons. A quick safety brief. Please check your surroundings, and for any trip hazards, check the weather forecast for any inclement weather, just for awareness. And if you are in your vehicle, please be parked in a safe location away from traffic. A few housekeeping notes before we get started. Please type your questions in the Q&A box using your control panel. We'll answer questions at the end of the presentation. Feel free to start adding those questions as the presentations goes, and we will be happy to answer those at the end. This webinar is being recorded, and a link will be sent out after the webinar a couple days later. This webinar is worth 1 ISA CEU. If you did not enter your ISA certification number during the registration, please type that into the Q&A box. Today we have our moderator is Mark Lucas, so he will be helping me throughout the process in any questions that raise. He will be monitoring the chat. I'm not able to do that while I'm doing the presentation, but I'll be happy to take a look at that as well towards the end of the presentation. So what we are going to be covering today as part of our outcomes and topics is first, plant growth regulators in general, what they are, modes of actions, how they work, what different types do we have. And we're also going to be covering the landscape growth control, particularly showcasing TrimTech, one of our products, core products in the market. We're going to cover the benefits of using growth regulators in general. We have some case studies related to drought tolerance that show how we can use them to provide more resistance to drought in our landscapes, as well as tree management with Cambistat and turf management with TrimPet Select. And then we will cover 5-10 minutes for questions and answers. In the landscape world, the labor is the number 2 concern in as far as cost, availability, and even quality of the labor that is needed for this task. Fuel prices have been for a long time the number 1 cost in our industry as well. But labor is one of the things that fluctuates a lot in our services, creating very sensitive input and when it comes to maintaining properties and creating quality for our customers. So what are the impacts of these labor shortages? Yes. On the service industry, what do we deal with? With happy customers or complaints. So this will generate complaints, but those are triggered for many reasons. They get triggered for crews cutting corners, trying to get the task done in a quick way, and be out of the properties in a timely manner. So that also creates a lot of training, higher training, more recruiting costs. And when you're trying to accelerate processes and tasks, that also incurs into more injuries in the workplace. So what happens to all of that? And on the other end, on the financial side, we definitely have lower profits. As far as metric comes, customers are not renewing as they should because the quality of the job is lower on those instances. So there's a few tools that we can implement in our businesses to actually improve all these metrics. So one is through trainings, encrypting jobs, equipment, larger, better equipment, more efficient, more fuel efficient, pre-emergent herbicides. That way you reduce your amount of weed management, the labor that is needed to do that task. Purchasing smarter, using products that are lower in cost or actually provide you a longevity in the results, not necessarily ounce per ounce cheaper, or but actually in the long run they may help you reduce cost of application, things like that. Plant growth regulators are a great tool, has been used in the market for a very long time. They're being used more and more in the landscape setting, as well as in the arboriculture industry. It's very important to embrace technology. There's many options in the market that we can utilize. Today, we're going to be covering here uh, TrimTech, our landscape growth regulator, TrimPack Select, our turf growth regulator, and as well our Cambistat tree growth regulator. But we can look at options like Weathermatic, or that provides a lot of automation when it comes to your irrigation systems. Or mapping like Cyricon or Aspire as far as software management, and products that help your turf look great, and also in agriculture from Horticultural Alliance, things like that. There's different technologies we can implement to drive that needle. So plants growth regulators have been introduced by the floriculture industry to create uniform plants as they are selling it. So many of us have been at every box store or our favorite landscape supplier for annuals, and we see all these beautiful, even looking plants with the same cycle of flowering, same size. Well, they are using plant growth regulators to be able to achieve that consistency in the process. So we have learned as Rainbow Ecoscience a lot about PGRs. Since 2001, we have been working with the utility industry in the utility industry with our service units, where we are providing, have developed the standard to regulate trees for power lines for these utility companies to reduce pruning cycles, as well as to improve the safety and consistency in how those power lines are working for those for their customers with less shortages. So from that sense, the landscape companies were also looking for solutions, and TrimTech was developed as a result of this. So we create, we produce, and support our PGR products for the long run. So before we jump into the products themselves and how they work on each setting, it's very important to understand the PGR classification. So there's type 1 PGRs, type 2 PGRs, and in type 1 PGRs are the ones that inhibit cell division, and they are mostly foliar absorbed, and it's very quickly to apply them. But they could come with certain downfalls. We'll cover that in the next slide. There are also type 2 PERs, and we have two of our products are within this, and they are further classified into Class A and Class B. So for the turf, we have Trimpac Select, which is a Class A type 2 PER that inhibits the production of gerbilin in the late biosynthetic pathway. So where it is a foliar applied. And then we have the Class B, which is also a type 2 PER with paclobutrazol, which inhibits also the gerbilin biosynthesis in the earliest stages of this pathway. So this is key to understand as well. But it can be, the difference here will be that it can be applied to the root system or via foliar as well. So Cambistat, Turntec fall into these Class B type 2 PERs. So Class A and Class B PERs are gerbilin synthesis inhibitors. So these are the hormones that are responsible for promoting cell elongation, as well as flowering and seed germination. So we reduce for growth control the size, the production of gibberellic acids impacting the size of those cells. We still continue to have cell division, and but we have a more compact, more dense plant material in the process. So type 1 PERs block cell division, therefore stopping mitosis. There is therefore creating growth regulation, but in some cases we can actually create damage to certain plants like ligustrum or scolonia. They start having some chlorosis develop, a smaller leaf, and that are not attractive to our end customer when it comes in the service industry. Type 2 PERs, in the other hand, actually just reduce the growth of the cells, making them look more compact. As we see here, there is 1 year of growth on the regulation. Here is a very small amount compared to this section that was not treated the year before. So there's a reduction on the stem, yet the plant continues to grow, but more of a compact look with a better color and looking more attractive for our customers. So paclobutrazol is the active ingredient for Turntec and Cambistat that is applied via foliar when it comes to Turntec, and is absorbed through the stems and the leaves, and it gets absorbed into the meristem. Also for trees, it gets absorbed through the root system because it's a soil applied solution, and it travels through the xylem up to every meristem on that tree, therefore creating regulation and improving the health of those trees as well. So, and here is where we impact the production of gibberellic acid or gerbilins in the isoprenoid pathway here, as we see towards the right. All right, so now we talk about the hormone management. Now, plants have a finite amount of energy, and they typically use this energy in the following 5 buckets: vegetative growth, reproductive structures, which is flowers and fruit, and then the root system, defense compounds, and storage compounds. What does that mean to us? That every time on the urban setting, when we are pruning trees or shrubs, we are actually promoting the production of gibberellic acids. Therefore, that plant is using a lot of energy to promote shoot growth, leaving a little bit of energy left for flowering, root development, and much less energy for protection of the plant in these last 2 buckets. But if we introduce PERs like Trimtec or Cambistat that have paclobutrazol in them, we actually reduce the production of that gibberellic acid, therefore reducing the amount of shoot growth that we are developing on that plant, and there's a lot of energy that is no longer used for that, that's going to be left or rerouted to reproductive structures like flowers or developing that root system. Actually, the root system is where a lot of that energy goes, helping develop a very healthy plant, in addition to promoting defense compounds and storage compounds in that plant. So that's where the health benefits come in play for our customers when we are using this product. So Trimtech is a liquid labor solution. Why do we call it liquid labor? Because it's out there working for you when you are not. It's working for your customers. It's making those plants looking healthier. It doesn't take vacation. It doesn't get sick. So this is a great tool that once you use it, and start using it, it's gonna be there working for you, where you can focus your energy on other tasks or other details that are important for your customers. So how does this save you labor and money? Well, very easy. So at the beginning, we typically on the landscape setting, we're constantly pruning, depending on your contract and where you're located in the contract. It could go from 4 times a year to like every month, depending where you're located and what type of plant material you're dealing with. But that creates peaks of demand of labor, which is very hard to fulfill when you're also at the same time increasing mowing cycles on the spring. So everything starts growing at the same time, but you don't necessarily have that amount of labor that you need to be able to offset that demand. So introducing plant growth regulators like TrimTech in the landscape is a way of offsetting those demands, peaks for demand of labor, where you can actually focus in other tasks that are also important for your customer as much as you just, for example, pruning the shrub or mowing the grass. So sometimes you don't want to be able, you want to be able to do it all, not necessarily have to choose which one is more important than the other, because then you fall into poor quality products for your customer. When you implement TrimTech, you are able to keep the consistency of the plant material for a longer period of time without having to invest a lot of resources on the management of the landscape. Well, let's talk about how we can achieve all of that. Well, we improve appearance, so that's related to quality. In this case, we have an Avilia in Dallas, Texas, that was regulated already for 8 weeks. When I mentioned regulated, that was treated with TrimTech 8 weeks ago before this picture was taken. You see how more compact, nice and green and full of flowers it is, because it's not constantly being sheared. So you are not removing that meristem that develops the buds for the flowers, and it's actually be able to completely and fully develop. This is another example of Avilia, 40 weeks after a fall treatment, so treated somewhere between November and October and November, and 40 weeks later it's looking very compact, very dense in addition to that, and we are able to appreciate flowers in that plant when typically it's very hard to see flowers in some of this plant material that we are showing here. Eleagnos, one of my favorite plants to actually use TrimTech on. It does regulate it very well. Otherwise, it becomes a nightmare to maintain, and it's hard to keep our customers happy when we have these landscape plant palettes in our properties that we are contracted to maintain. So this is a difference of 8 weeks of growth without on the left and 8 weeks of growth with TrimTech on the right. Very little amount of management to be done. It's not that you don't have to do anything, it's just you still have some work to do, but it's the amount of energy and resources that you have to invest into managing that property is a lot lower, and you are able to focus your energy in things that are important for your customers in the quality of your job. This is Winter Creeper Unanimous Colorados 8 weeks after treatment. We show here sections that have been treated, sections that were not treated. This was a trial that was done in the area of Oklahoma, and it looks great with 8 weeks after treatment. It does not need any pruning. The areas that need to be maintained do need a lot of shearing in that case. When you are on parking lot settings, sometimes having to do a lot of mechanical shearing can become a challenge due to the amount of cars that are on those parking lots. When you are using plant growth regulators, you are able to use very low invasive tools with a very low amount of debris management in the process. This is an example of boxwood 15 months after treatment, where it has not been pruned since it got treated. But the quality of that shrub is amazing. Deep green color, very compact. It does not have shear marks. Please look at this picture. There is a section that was sheared that didn't get treated, and then 12 weeks later, a section that got treated. Look how amazing it looks. It's lush green. It does not have shear marks on the new growth, and it's very compact. It does not need any pruning other than this little section here on the bottom that may need to be pruned by hand with a pair of clippers. Raviolis, Indian hawthorn, is a plant that in many locations in the country grows really fast. Looks very healthy, but it grows fast in a matter of weeks, so increasing the demand of labor a lot. We see here the area that is treated is very compact, deep green, and it does not need any work at all at this point. So you're able to create consistency using this product. Now let's look at this picture where we are able to promote flowering on Indian hawthorn. This is 10 weeks after trimming. Of course, at the time, there is the season for blooming, but when it does bloom, it looks amazing. Here is a very common issue with Indian hawthorn where it develops a lot of entomosporium leaf spot. This is a very common disease in this plant material, always looking weak, especially on the southeast. I do see this quite a bit, but when you implement Trimtech into these landscape settings, where you have this plant material, you're able to promote the health of that plant, help develop better root system, have a cleaner foliage as a result of the application. Also, you could use this on settings like this. This is an example on Southeast Florida, where back in 2016, we applied this product on these houses to control the growth of firebush. It had the problem is it was encroaching into the driveways and not allowing the cars to go in and out without getting scratched. So that was a great solution that got implemented into this community. As you see in the picture that didn't got treated here on the left, the growth a couple of weeks after treatment, it can be just a lot. So that was a complaint generator. Those complaints went away instantly as soon as that they got treated. This is another great solution that you can appreciate. This is on Deerfield Beach, Florida, on firebush, very compact, full of flowers. And many times we get questions about bees. Does it affect the bees or does it attract bees? Actually, it does attract a lot of bees into the process because you have so many flowers present here. So every time that I approach a plant, a shrub like this one that has a ton of flowers, you will just hear the buzzing of the bees around. Plumbago, another great example. I mean, there's endless examples of flowering shrubs that can promote the blooming. We have azaleas. They go full, compact, and they just create a really wow effect for your customers. So this is the quality that you will be getting when you start using Trimtech as your plant growth regulator. A lot of consistency is one of the things that I love about it. Burford Hollies in Dallas, 20 weeks after treatment, that section that was treated has not been pruned yet at that point at the time the picture was taken, compared to the untreated section that was pruned 3 times already before in the process. So, and you see still how much growth it has is getting ready to be needing another tipping or pruning event in the process. This is the difference on the growth control of Burford Holly, where you see the difference in the stem is a lot longer, and that's just one prune cycle out of those 3. Also, you can implement this in the use of ligustrum hedges. This is an example when you are doing treatments on the fall. This is 24 weeks after treatment, and it's staying really well compact. It's just at the end of April at the time that picture was taken. This is very repeatable. I have done it in the Orlando area with many other species, and treating in the fall is an excellent solution. That way you don't have to worry about doing treatments on the spring when you can focus on managing your turf that is starting to grow at that time of the year. Just another example of ligustrum 8 weeks after treatment. I mean, very actively growing. Ligustrum is a plant that really breaks through really quick. It's one of the first species that will, along with the Leagnus, that will break growth once you hit the spring. This is an example of the stem. So you see how compact that looks on the right. Very short, a lot of leaves, creates a fullness effect into your hedges, fulfilling those gaps that typically are showing as a result of your constant pruning cycles. Ilex vomitoria. Here is an example of what is regulating for 15 months. And it's a great tool for this because literally will stop the management needed at a great level with this plant. Even though when you're pruning it, you're pruning a very little amount, but you still have to do that management. It's very easy to make a mistake on the pruning process. So if you can avoid that, it's just a lot less work that you have to do. Just appreciate this curb appeal here on these medians in Dallas, same plant material. But the main thing that I want to showcase here is the amount of exposure that you reduce when it comes to safety. Not having to be constantly for hours and in these sections with your employees setting MOT to try to keep them safe. If you can reduce how long and how many times a year you have to do that, you are reducing the exposure for them to be out there and getting in the job. Weed suppression. Asiatic jasmine is one of the plants that I used it on for the first time, along with Ixoras. But the one thing that caught my attention was how well it suppresses the weeds. I mean, we all have done many or have used many practices to try control weeds in this setting. And this by far, for me, is the best solution for managing weeds inside an Asiatic jasmine because it will control them more than it will control the Asiatic jasmine. Now, it's a perfect for the Asiatic jasmine. It looks fantastic. It looks more compact, greener. It reduces the management needed for it so to like at least 20%. Right. So we show many cases, and there's many more pictures we can show in the process. But the secondary benefits that are things that you want to share with your customers when using this product is that improve the appearance of the plant by creating denser, greener foliage, improve drought tolerance by being able to regulate the stomata. And we're going to cover drought in a little bit. It also reduces the fertilization that is required because it's utilizing less energy needs and you are not taking that much foliage out of the plant anymore. So the nutrients are staying there within that plant. So it creates a more compact look and growth, full dense canopies, and enhances the flowering by bud stacking in the process. So yes, it reduces the labor, but it also reduces the cost. In this study here, we can see that it reduced the weight in one event by 50% at least in the process. There has been other studies done and that show up to 80% of the debris management reduction just on waste and the waste part of it. For example, with cherry hedges, where that study took place in Coconut Creek. Also, we have some customers that have used TrimTech, and they have recorded up to 30% by reducing 30% of their whole waste. They are actually saving up to $200,000 a year, as stated by Cal Readers and CEO of Vintage Landscape. Also, Joe Butler has shown being able to record 70% labor reduction when utilizing trim tech on the Dallas-Fort Worth area, just when by reducing the amount of pruning that is needed for those sites. And again, it's not that you are not doing your business and on your properties, but the amount of time that you take to do that is that much less when you implement this technology. Now, switching gears to trees, Cambistat has become the industry standard for managing growth in trees, as well as becoming one of the tools to support and improve the health on trees. But before we get there, it's very important to understand the signs of stress in the trees. So we can find dead wood in the canopy. We can find sparse wilting leaves. We can find branches dropping in the process. So as well, and we can have dead or flaking bark. And I apologize, my slide is changing back and forward. But also we can find sprouts and suckers at the bottom of the tree. So those are signs of the tree is showing some stress. So we need to learn to identify those. But we need to understand where the trees are growing. So trees are growing typically in a forest where they have plenty of space. The roots have plenty of space to grow. The canopies develop their own space. So everything is living in a balance at that point. So now we bring these trees to the urban environment where they have restricted root flares, poor soils, inadequate soil moisture, reflected heat, and many things that can be affecting them. So as we see in all these pictures here, that's nothing close to what the forest looks like in where they actually naturally grow. So we have curbs. We plant them on a median that eventually gets overgrown. So there's not enough planning on the process to be able to sustain the health of these trees. So we also, in the process of construction, create root damage. Mitigating construction damage is very important to take place in the planning phase. We need to work on planning through professionals like arborists on the process to help the builders and architects with our expertise on what trees can be safe, what are the desirable trees. And key thing to remember and that we need to help educate the industry is arborists cannot repair trees that have been damaged at once the damage takes place. So being involved in the planning phase will be ideal, where we can take a look at what trees can be safe. And also very important is to understand that the more mature a tree is, the more likely it is to not survive, because there is less dynamic tissue active in that tree to be able to sustain and recover from stress that will be put through. So if in doubt of a tree survival, make sure to plan accordingly. Only preserve trees that you know that will survive on the process. So mitigating the construction damage is ideally just on the planning phase, then the design phase. It's important to pre-construction to include tools like Cambistat, for example, to offset the stress of the tree. We know that it's going to go to stress, so let's prepare that tree ahead of time. Be proactive about it. This Cambistat also increases the production of the abscisic acid, that is the plant protection hormone that promotes and stimulates the root growth. So that will be ideal for situations where you are doing root pruning, for fixing sidewalks or redoing the parking lot. And it's going to help that tree close the stomatas to keep from evapotranspirating as much. So it protects the cells from dehydration in the process. So the treated trees will be able to show darker, greener colors because produce more chlorophyll. So that's another benefit, just like in shrubs, the same active ingredient. So it will be getting that benefit. the root development. It will promote that fine mass root system to be developed. This is an example of a sugar maple on the Morton Arboretum, where they did a study to evaluate how much the roots will develop on their campus treatment. So plant growth regulators in are used for can be used for managing trees under drought as well as shrubs. Uh, the use of type 2 plant growth regulators are well documented to induce drought resistance in both woody and herbaceous plants, so like trees and shrubs. So there's a few changes that happen at the physiological level. First, increasing the amount of acetic acid that we were just talking about that reduces the cell dehydration, promoting the or providing the ability to the stomates to respond quicker to low soil moisture conditions. There's also the accumulation of proline, which maintains the cell turgor or osmosis balances. This stabilizes the membranes, preventing electrolyte leakage. So that's comes to your energy. Also brings the concentration down of reactive oxygen species, ROS, within normal ranges. Also, therefore preventing oxidative bursts in the plants. So it changes the leaf morphology. When it comes to morphology, they were talking about the actual physical visual changes that you can see. So leaves are going to be thicker. Waxy, it will have a waxy cuticle that is thicker, and which reduces water loss. Also increases the trichome hairs by area, reducing the moisture loss. So it's been documented that increases those by 5 times. Treated trees also will show less signs of scorch by using cambistat. Getting part of that has to do with the what we were just talking about, the cuticle of the leaf and just the dehydration and the moisture management. There's another example of other trees that show less signs of scorch when using cambistat versus not using it. It is widely used by arborists to manage trees that are under decline. For example, the Morton Arboretum did a study where there was this white oak 1989 under severe stress, and they treated it with cambistat twice in the process here, and they were able to recover that tree. Well, that was part of the total solution that they used. So there were other things that they were doing to the tree as well to be able to recover the tree, but it's not like the only solution. So it's very important to work with your arborist to develop a full prescription on how to manage those trees. This is an example of a tree that at the Jefferson Parish in Louisiana that I have been part of helping the community recover that tree, where we recommended to remove a couple parking spots to be able to allow more space for that root flare to develop and be able to get water. And also they apply cambistat on it around March. So that last picture was taken in August 2024 and it's looking great. So there's also research data showing that improved drought tolerance from the using Trintec. So this is a study that was done with the Utah State University on with the drought study. So what they were evaluating here in the process was using different products like Trimtech, polymers, Moisturate, even just water alone. And it was shown that only the plants that were treated with Trimtech survived the drought conditions that were induced to these plants at the time of the study. So that was a great finding. Where testified to how efficient and how well the plants will respond to managing the drought with plant growth regulators. So in summary, plant growth regulators are a great tool in our landscapes, but not only for their growth regulation effects, but also for their secondary benefits such improved drought tolerance, greener leaf, prolific flowering. Growth regulation, for me, is more of a consistent look in the process. And we are able to create that for our customers with quality. So the key here is quality. So now let's cover a little bit about turf. PERs and turf are a great tool to reduce biomass management. So there has been studies showing that thinning spaghetti have reduced 40% and thick-weight Bermuda grass clippings, 50% on hybrid Bermuda grasses, and 70% on thick-weight Bermuda. So usually 7 to 28 days is the amount of time that it takes to will last this, but this depends on how low you're cutting your grasses and how warm the temperatures are in that location that you're utilizing the product. This is another example of Tinex ethyl, where increases social Mantrella shade tolerance. I have witnessed this as well in San Agustin in Florida, and their shade conditions on their trees. It has been it's really fantastic what it can do. So Trimpact Select is our solution for turf growth management. So it's comparable to Primo. It lasts, promotes suppression between 5 to 6 weeks. It can be tax mixed with regular rounds of products that you are already doing on your turf, like insecticides, fungicides, or weed management. So you are just adding this to your existing services. In many occasions, you are not just having to do an extra application in most locations. So it's good on all turf species. It has a very specific label for every turf species that you're dealing with. So it's very easy to read. It tells you everything. It's one of the things that I love about this product. So there has been a few studies done throughout. So for example, we have an ROI study that was done in Hardyville, Carolina, where Trimpact Select was used, and it showed 50% reduction on the labor needed, or the amount of mows that were having to be done in that section. So they were able to use that existing labor on other things that were important for that customers that they were wanting done, and they were using technology to offset that without incurring into extra labor usage. So this was a site that was about 80 to 100 acres of Soja and Bermuda combined, and they used 12 ounces per acre, applied 30 gallons of solution per acre on these roadway conditions and areas within a HOA. So their intervals were 3 to 4 weeks. In that case. So Trimpact Selects also could reduce how will it work for you in the landscape. So it will reduce bi-weekly mows to bi-weekly mows instead of weekly mows. It will reduce your clippings. So at the time you are doing the service, you are not having to manage as much clippings. And I have some pictures that I can show you in a little bit later to that. And it gives you 5 to 6 weeks of control, and also improve drought tolerance for those sections. Sometimes you have that irrigation that is not like really perfect, so but it will help you carry on that turf that is not gonna be perfect, but it's gonna survive most of the areas. So this is an example of reduced clippings. You see the section on the left that was not treated. That section was mowed 3 times over, and you still have clippings in there, versus the section that was treated. Still 8 weeks after treatment in San Agustin, and still like very clean, just with one mow pass in that case. So this is an example of San Agustin where was treated on the right and not treated on the left. And you see the difference on growth there. That was 4 weeks after treatment. You could mow that section that was treated only like twice a month, and to keep it looking very close to perfect. And this other section will need weekly mowings instead, because it's growing so fast and aggressively. And also, as you see here, the difference in color, the density and the chlorophyll. This is where I noticed the improved shade tolerance, and also the tillering that is improved in that turf when that turf was probably like 40% in density, and at that time was like 70% under shade conditions. So just a quick summary, you will reduce mowings by 60% when implementing this technology. It reduces the string trimming on those areas that you're trying to reduce the labor, like sidings, fences, ditches, things that demand a lot of manual labor. You can implement higher rates on areas that are related to edging. So the label provides you that information. Typically, it's double the rate that you will use on over the turf in normal conditions, and that's very specific to each turf, but the label provides you all that information. It's great on islands, medians, hillsides, and it helps you improve the safety exposure overall on your landscape setting. Well, thank you for attending today. We covered three great topics that are very important in our industry. So we're gonna jump into questions here next. Right, so I put my contact information in case you have questions beyond this meeting here. Definitely happy to help you.
Okay.
Right. So we have of James, thank you for putting your ISA number, Jason as well, Josh.
Yeah, just go down to is probably about it's past about 20 down there, Francisco. You'll see a bunch of questions.
All right, very good.
Down to Craig Bachman, I think is really the first question, and he's asking, in Seattle, a lot of people are asking not to use a lot of chemicals. Example, Trim Tech. You know, what can we do or what can we say? So I think some of the suggestions are, you know, talking to the customers about the secondary benefits that Francisco so eloquently mentioned. Improve flowering, improve overall health, less green waste. Those are all examples of, and you know, improved
Improve appearance.
appearance. All of those things are gonna, I think, maybe speak to your client. Your pollinators are going to be more abundant because there's a better food source. Your plants will be more drought tolerant over time and may be able to reduce irrigation needs. So all of those are examples. Okay.
There was a customer that has reached out a few months back, I believe was in Portland area, and that they were managing a big hedge setting, and they were wanting to find a route to do that just because the availability of the labor to manage that massive hedge was tremendous for them, even though the frequency is very low. It made sense for them to actually implement technology instead of manpower because they are able to do other things with that. You know, you offset labor needs and are able to create other streamlines of revenue within the business, bringing more revenue in with the same amount of
Yeah. No, it
resources.
totally makes sense. Sometimes customers just don't want to spray. So that was the answer for that one. We had another question on, can type 2 growth regulators be used on residential fruit trees to reduce sprouting and overall pruning needs? Francisco?
So the two products that we have here, they are not geared or labeled for regulating fruit trees in a residential setting. So that will be a specific growth regulators that are labeled for that. I just don't know specifics on what those products are currently.
Okay. Justin asks, are you recommending doing these treatments right after you prune? So Justin, these Trim Tech in particular can be applied anytime the plants are actively growing. We need new shoots, new leaves, new buds on there. So if you're doing a pruning, unlike some of the type 1 growth regulators like Atramec, where you do apply it right after you prune, this is interacting with the plant in a different way. So we need to have new shoots, new buds. So we'd want to wait maybe 5 to 10 days, depending on the where you are in the country, to apply this product. So it's getting applied to new leaves, new shoots, new buds.
Yeah. Typically, growing season that is the case, and yes, you have a much larger window to utilize this product compared to a type 1. So it's
Yep.
a lot more flexible for you.
And the other thing that wasn't mentioned here, but Trim Tech in many parts of the country, we apply this in the fall. So we'll apply this in September and October, so you don't have to do a spring application. Generally, we're doing one and perhaps two applications a year, depending on where you are. Down where in the south, we're probably doing two. We're in Florida, Southern California, other areas like Maryland and the mid part of the country, or Virginia even, we're doing one application. We have a question here asking about, can growth regulators increase tree roots? The tree root damage to hardscape. So we are using this to mitigate sidewalk lift because cambistat or paclobutrazole will improve fibrous roots, not the buttress roots, and it will allow the plants to, be more drought tolerant in those areas and maybe slow, things like sidewalk lift. I hope that answers your question, and we can follow up with all of these.
Absolutely.
Francisco, I'm trying to get through a few more.
Yes, I can help
Can
you answer
growth
those.
regulators be used to help improve establishment of new plantings? So I think we generally are asking the plants to get established for a year or two, Francisco, first. Is that right?
Yes, you want to create the plan needs to be established, and depending on where you are in the country, that can fluctuate anywhere from 8 months to 2 years, depending on the plan. So, for example, trees, you would like them to establish to be at least 4 inches of DBH before you start using cambistat on trees, actually. So.
Okay.
Mhm.
And then Matt Nielsen asks, what type of scorch are you referring to? Were you referring to bacterial leaf scorch? I think he's referring to one of your slides earlier,
Yes,
but
I know that I was gonna get this question. So and I have asked this question. I'm more from I'm located on South Florida, so I'm not experienced with that. But the answer I have gotten is that it works with both. It will help set both, especially that you're getting with to heat.
yes. So with both, heat scorch because you're getting less transpiration and better fibrous roots, so you're going to get better water uptake and become more drought tolerant, as well as BLS or bacterial leaf scorch. It can also help directly with that in terms of cambistat. We have one here about the asking about the white oak in the time lapse of cambistat. The canopy looks very weakened. I believe the label for cambistat says to not use on tree in poor health or something like that.
Mhm.
Is a tree with 30% canopy loss still within reason to recommend cambistat? Where
Uh,
is the line that you no longer recommend cambistat for treatment, Francisco?
Okay, so my understanding with trees that are under severe stress is if they are at least 50% of the canopy, there's still a candidate. Now, there has been cases by customers or researchers that they claim they have been able to bring trees from a very severe stress. But again, when you have a reduced canopy, the label calls for a reduction on the rate as well at the time that you are doing the treatment. So they don't require the full rate because then you will induce too much. You will induce more stress in the tree instead of helping it. So that has to be evaluated on based on canopy percentage that you have at the time of treatment.
Yep. If you apply, Chris asked, if you apply cambistat to a tree in the early spring, would you see any benefits that year?
Uh, yes, you will start to see benefits probably 6 months into the process. If you're doing large trees, you will definitely see peak regulation at about a year when you are using cambistat. That's when year to year and a half is your peak regulation, and you will get regulation for 2 to 3 years in the process of using with
Okay.
one treatment.
Then
Mhm.
we had an anonymous question. Do you have to get your plants or grass looking the way you want it before, or something is struggling? Can you use it?
That's great question. So I'm glad you asked that question. Yes, you do want to get the plants or grasses to look the way you want them to look moving forward. So that applies to trim tech, that applies to trim pack select as well. So you want that size, shape, and density that you are looking to showcase for your customer.
Yeah, and with all of these products, we are a company that direct distributes, but more importantly, and Francisco mentioned this, but we supply, um, in many cases, on-site support for things like Cambistat and or TrimTech to help get you going. We don't just hand you the bottle and say good luck. We will physically work with you. How often do you treat the grass?
Uh, Based on the species and variety, time of the year, but the label calls for every 28 days. I have treated San Agustin on more of a 6 to 6 week interval will work for me. I'm located on Fort Pierce, Florida, for example. So 6 weeks work for me with Trimpac Select. But other species are more demanding. My understanding, Bermuda will is more demanding and will require to stay within those intervals.
Yep. Nathan asked if we've never used before, can we use full strength or should we ease into the use of the product? So Cambistat's dosed by the species and the diameter inch and also the overall health of the tree. TrimTech is dosed by the species and the part of the country you're in. So all of those our team would work with you on what dosing rate to use. Generally, TrimTech is between 10 and 13 ounces per gallon. And that ready-to-use gallon is going to cover about 300 face feet. Okay. Does TrimTech work on evergreens? Generally, it does. It doesn't work as well on needled evergreens. So things like your junipers and your yews, it struggles. Maybe you're going to get between 10 and 25% control versus your non-needled evergreens and deciduous shrubs. You're going to get more like 50 to 70%, Charles. Okay. David asks, why don't they allow double rate on main turf areas like the edging? Actually, the label does allow you for up to 2x the rate on Trinexapac ethyl. That is on there. So some companies are doing a double rate on Trinpac Select or Trinexapac ethyl. So you can do that. Any specific research studies done for drought tolerance improvement on cool season turf? I think that was discussed in the slide a little bit, but there is some drought tolerance improvement. Is that right? Is that true, Francisco? For
Yes,
turf on Trinpac Select?
yeah, I have to look back at that slide. I'll get back to you, Randy, to make
Yep.
sure I have the right information for you.
Okay. We had another anonymous. How does growth regulator work on weed suppression exactly?
Okay, so very good question. Referring to the slide of Asiatic jasmine. So the rate for Asiatic jasmine, we're treating that bed of jasmine at the rate for the Asiatic jasmine. The weeds that are living within that space are very sensitive to paclobutrazole, so they are gonna get overregulated. So they're gonna start very tiny on the ground. So they are not being killed or anything. They're there, but you're just not being able to see them.
Okay. And James asks, if we have a higher than expected rainfall, can these products overstimulate stomata, having a negative effect?
I have not seen overstimulation on all these years when using these products, referring to paclobutrazole specifically here. But as long as the product is absorbed into the plant material, it will stay in the plant material. So it's not something that you can actually wash off from the plant. You have to prune it off to actually remove it.
Okay. Joseph has a comment maybe. Do you always need to trim first before using Trim Deck? No, you don't. If you like the way the plant looks and it's actively growing, like I described in the fall, say October, September, you can apply the plant. You don't have to prune the plant. If your plant is in the size, shape, and form that you want, you can apply Trim Tech. Greg asks, how will this Camostat work on regulating ash, elm, cottonwood, maple, and willow? We have a lot of clients who want to keep these trees small. And then how often do you apply Camostat?
Um, so I'm not familiar with the results on these specific trees, Mark. In your
Well, yeah,
answering the
I know elm, maple. So all of those are on the label and regulated. They do a very good job. We're going to go at, you know, the rate that's on, that we recommend, that's on the label. And they do a good job. And Camostat is applied every approximately 3 years. Can paclobutrazol be harmful to avian species that feed on fruit? Bird
answer.
species.
That answer, I don't know. Number one, you would not be using paclobutrazol on fruit trees. So it's not labeled for that. So that will be off label if you are treating those species of trees. But one recommendation, if a fruit tree gets treated, is not to eat the fruit for a year, at least.
As a person.
Mhm.
There's no harm to birds or other that eat fruit of any of these products. Is there any literature you could point me towards that you follow? Caleb, we can supply you with backup literature for any of our slides. What's the time frame between first and second treatment using Camostat in regards to bringing back the health of the plant or the health of the tree? So this is every 3-year treatment. TrinPack Select, someone has a question about clarify the frequency of application. So TrinPack Select at its normal dose lasts for about 5 to 6 weeks. So if you want to do a second application at that time, you may.
The label calls for 28 days, so that's your closest interval. You may be referring, Elia, to San Agustin here because I mentioned 6 weeks, so you can do it anywhere between 28 to 6 weeks, depending on your growth pressure. If you see that you still have growth control, I would go to 6 weeks.
Yeah, someone asked about, can it work on annuals or perennials? Yes, it can. Works on both, just at lower rates. Crabapple and hawthorn, yeah, it's used on crabapple. Camostat is used on things like for apple scab as well.
Thank you, Megan.
Camostat can be used on spruce trees for things like there's a number of diseases that paclobutrazol helps with. Apple scab, cytospora canker, can help with chlorosis, tar spot on maple, fire blight, bacterial leaf scorch, fungal diseases like powdery mildew. How long before construction disturbance activity would you recommend treatment for mature hardwood? I'm going to say a year. Francisco, what is your guidance
A
on that?
year to 6 months to a year, the peak
Okay,
benefit will be shown at
yep.
a year.
And someone asked, can you use Trim Tech on Japanese maple? Really not recommended. Paclobutrazol is highly sensitive to dogwoods and Japanese maples, so we really want to be careful on that. There were I talked about some of the diseases. TrinPack Select works well on both cool and warm season grasses. The presentation will be available about 2 business days. You will receive an email with the link. I think we covered most of those. So, and we're at time, Francisco, so.
And for Jeff, we will submit the CEUs as long as you provided your ISA certification.
Yes.
Okay.
So I think we're at time. There's Francisco's contact information. Please reach out to us with any questions, but thank you, Francisco. Great job.
Thank you, everyone, for your questions. Thank you for joining today, and I look forward to the next one.
Thanks, everyone. We're going to sign off now.
Yes.
Have a great day.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it.